Nope. Let's get going. Sorry about that. Had to wet my whistle a little bit. Sorry about the little bit of a delay. Um, get everything situated. I see my brother Shadow Band out there. Sorry, sir. My apologies for my tardiness. I wanted to make sure to get this video up to be able to go to it quickly. Says I know nothing black man in the black church, but I know about the church. Well, the reason why this is interesting is because a statistic which and I'm going to talk about the Latin American church next, or not Latin American, but let's see, I guess Latino church. Yeah, I guess I'll focus on America because see the reason why it's a little bit different with the black church is because um across around the world, literally, the diaspora of black men in various countries are all fleeing the church.
Yeah.
And so it's not just happening in America, it's not just Canada, it's happening everywhere. Oh, there's John. What's up, brother? He says, yeah, oh, black guys can't stay up too late. I understand, John. You can always catch it, the next because trust me, it's going to be plenty in here. And if there's a comment that you want to get in that or a question that you want to get in that you're not on for the live, just drop it in the comment section, and then we'll go back into it at the start of the next show. Yeah, so I saw this panel, and actually there was another one that I wanted to cover before. So but I couldn't find that one right away. So I found this one, and this one actually had a whole lot of subjects to go into and a whole lot of things that we can pull from in the Bible to be able to back up. I feel like biblically we can back up some of these reasonings, and it will give Fuzz a lot of fun to pull up some precepts to some of this stuff. Fuzz has not seen this at all, so this is going to be a fresh reaction for him. Myself personally, I just actually finished it. I started watching it earlier in the day, so I want to welcome everybody to the show. Start off, Fuzz. How are we doing, brother?
Doing great.
All right.
What about you?
Doing good. Yeah, I mean, for those who now, I know John, he'll understand this. I don't know if everybody understands this dynamic, but if you look at any statistic, the black community is still the highest religious community, predominantly within Christianity. But whether it's Islam, whether it's some New Age religion, the common thread is that what happened there? Oh well, guess I lost a light. Hold on 1 second. But the common thread in the black community is that they are still very religious overall. And so much so that it's a much higher rate. And so when you start seeing a falling away from the church, it gets very noticeable. And for many reasons that it's noticeable. A lot of pastors prop themselves up off the money of the black church. So first and foremost, I want to give all honor and glory to Heavenly Father Yahweh. That is, for some know the Father's name as Yahweh. In the Paleo Hebrew, we know it as Yahweh. And give honor and glory to His Son Yahweh Shai, which the world knows as Jesus Christ. See Misha, hey brother, how are we doing? So I mean, I don't want to delay too much longer. I want to hop right into it. But if you all did not notice, we had an interview on Doom and Gloom headquarters with Ali, one of the half of that duo. If you guys didn't see it, please check it out. If you guys don't know how to find it and you're struggling with that, just let us know in the comment section, and I will try to upload clips, if not upload the full interview. I kind of like to, if I go on an interview another channel, I like for it to get its good amount of views first before I bring it over to my platform, so that we're not taking away from the views at all. But let's get right into this video. Yeah, and I'll let you pull whichever. Just let me know whenever you want me to stop it, Fuzz. And then we can do that. This channel is, I guess it's called Dr. Thunder. If you guys want to go into it, we will not do the whole entire thing tonight. That's the reason why I put part one. We will come back to it next week. Says Ali is the doom or the gloom half. I still have not figured that part out. Yeah, no, I don't think. Well, I don't think one half would take any slight to it at all. Just put it that way. But yeah, let's go on and get into it. I'm gonna skip ahead a couple of minutes to get past all the intros and everything, to where they actually start talking about some stuff, and they bring up some really good questions and some points. So what was it, about 5 minute mark? I want to say, let's go about 5:35. Let's go there.
Hurt black men. It doesn't do anything for the community, and that's why
I guess I'll back up just a little bit.
What you would call the pro-black community, which consists of the Nation of Islam, 5% Nation, Hebrew Israelite. You guys know the Hoteps, the agnostics, all of those.
I wanted to stop that real quick because that's something which you did not hear about before. The church was always worried predominantly with the Nation of Islam. They weren't so much worried about, for instance, people who were going into, Kemet, or for those who don't know, Kemet is Egypt, or Egyptian, belief, which, believe it or not, some of those people might be, some might fall up under the Egyptian stop. If you follow, migration patterns and where the Egyptians actually ended up and where Israelites ended up, they both ended up, many in West Africa. So, and there's some truth to that. So whichever side you go to, I guess I'll leave that on the individual. I believe that most, speaking for just the Black community in general, or the Black diaspora, majority would fall up under, in my opinion, I believe, the Hebrew Israelite side. And we will go into, the native groups, and well, we might not do a video like this on the native groups because natives have always kind of kept themselves away from the church in general. Shadow says NOI is a cult that worships living men. I agree with you. The Bible tells us to not follow into those religions or worshiping wood and stone. And our understanding of that wood and stone, that stone part, would be the cobblestone, which the Nation of Islam, or Muslims in general, bow down to and give praise. So we don't believe in that false religion. Fuzz, you want to say something?
I was about to roll up to Deuteronomy 28.
Oh, well, go on ahead with it. Pull up that verse so you can see what we're referencing. And normally anything that's in the Torah, that is an actual law that we are supposed to hold to. So when it tells us not to do it, yeah, that's something we definitely should not be doing. But yeah, you're going ahead.
So this is the fifth book of Moses, Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 36. The Lord shall bring thee and thy king, which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known. And there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone.
And what it means by this wood and stone, like we just mentioned, that would be Islam, and the wood, that would be cross. And the reason why we shouldn't worship the cross, for one, that's what our Messiah was killed on. It's like your brother is killed with a gun, and you walk around with a gun chain around your neck, the gun which he was killed with. That's as logical as, walking around with the cross around your neck. It's basically glorifying the tool which murdered him. And if you actually go into, history and dig further enough, it wouldn't have been a cross like that. That cross actually falls under paganism because it goes back to the T for Tammuz, which Tammuz was the son of Nimrod. But then that starts going into, you know, the paganism with Easter and all that stuff like that. And so that'll take us down another route. But let's get back in and hear some of these questions, because these gentlemen, the title of this is Why African American Men Are Leaving the Black Church for Good, as he says. So here, let's hop back in.
The Hebrew, you know, all those people are in those groups. And a lot of people believe that Christianity has hurt the African American community. It's hurt Black men. It doesn't do anything for the community. And that's why you see a lot of Black men leaving, going to more male dominated religions like, Islam, things like that. Why I want to start with Pastor Coates. Why are Black men, African American men, not involved in the church as they were?
Now, I will let them give their response because, of course, I'm chomping at the bit to give my response. But I will let them give their response first, and then we can, you know, give some pushback or commentary to that.
Or let's say 30, 40 years ago.
Well, I think is a relevant question, and I thank you for asking the question. I think the fact of the matter is that Black people are leaving the Black church. When Gallup, when they're telling the truth, they're saying that over the last 10 years, that close to 20% of the Black church has left. People have left the church, and I believe that Black men in particular are leaving the church because of lack of relevancy to them. They don't see application, inspiration, support from the Black church or from pastors that's directing a message to Black men.
Now, I won't completely disagree with that, what he said there, but that's not the main reason why. Let's see if any of these gentlemen can give us a better reason why. And then, like I said, Fuzz, whenever you have a scripture that you want to add, a precept you want to add, I trust me, I got a couple, but I'm gonna kind of let them heat it up. I don't want to stop it too much. See how far we can get through this, and so we don't have to have a whole lot saved for the second half. We can go into a third one.
All right.
But yeah, let's go. Oh, you had something?
No, I'm just trying to think like of the right one to pull up. But yeah, keep going for now.
Oh, don't worry. Yeah. Once, because he's going to kind of go around the panel. He starts off with Reverend John T. Coates. Second, he's a Reverend Joel A. Brooks. This gentleman right here is a Reverend also. Basically, a lot of them have the same background, which most Black men have. They spent their lives in the church. They've been going to church since they were like 4 or 5 years old, or as early as they can remember. A lot of us going to church easily, 5 to 6 times a week. I know on Sundays I used to go like 3 or 4 times a day. You know, being there for early morning service, then Sunday school, and then morning service, and then afternoon service, and then BTUs. I mean, we'd spend all day long there. You'd have choir rehearsal, you have prayer meeting, you have Bible studies. I mean, all these different things going on almost every night of the week in the church. Which that is a little bit different than what takes place in some other church factions. Shadow, you said that you're not familiar as much with the Black church, which is good for you to be able to hear some of this stuff, because he's going to bring, one of these pastors is going to bring up something that he noticed different between the Black church and the white church. So I think this is it's a lot of good stuff in here. Though I don't necessarily agree with a lot of, there's just things in here that I definitely disagree with. And we'll bring up those nuance points.
Another issue is that as the church has become more charismatic in its behavior, not in its doctrine or theology, but in its behavior, that I don't believe that's necessarily appealing to Black men. The charismatic expression, the shouting, the rolling on the floor, those various Pentecostal expressions. I'm in the Church of God in Christ, and we see it often. A lot of that is done with a feminine type of characteristic. So a Black man
preach, Pastor.
someone losing control of themselves. I'm going to lose control of my.
That leads me to one of my first ones that I'll want to go into. It's funny. Shadow says he went more than I did. At a certain point, I stopped going as much when my uncles, my uncle was a pastor and a bunch of deacons in the family, and other ministers and whatever titles that they had, they couldn't give me answers to things that I had. I stopped going quite as much. John says, I say 100 having a white Cuban mother. I went to Roman Catholic Church in Chicago. Me and my brothers left because we never saw the church as us. Yeah, it's definitely not. And father wasn't religious. So, okay, so this is a little bit of a different upbringing than what you had. Let's see, which scripture did I want to bring up when he just mentioned that? Because he talked about the church being effeminate. And I wanted to bring that up because that is something you see. Most of the males in the church are very, on the, well, let's just be about love and peace and forgiveness. And it's a very, very effeminate type spirit. One of my teachers, Deacon, he always calls, he says that there's no masculinity in the church. Now, granted, I haven't been in the Christian church, so I haven't been in quite a while to a lot of these churches, so I can't speak, but I know when I deal with some of these gentlemen how it goes. Go ahead, Fuzz.
What was it that you just said right now about peace? Like being all about love and peace? Can you repeat that one more time?
Oh, about a lot of them are just about love and peace, and they're just about how how we could just make this a better world, and always turning the other cheek and forgiveness.
Right off the bat, I got a precept right in line for this.
Go ahead.
This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 14 and verse 13. Then said I, Lord God, behold, the prophets say unto them, Ye shall not see the sword, neither shall ye have famine, but I will give you assured peace in this place. Then the Lord said unto me, The prophets prophesied lies in my name. I sent them not, neither have I commanded them, neither spake unto them. They prophesy unto you a false vision and divination, and a thing of naught, and the deceit of their hearts. Therefore thus saith the Lord concerning the prophets that prophesy in my name, and I sent them not. Yet they say, Sword and famine shall not be in this land. By sword and famine shall those prophets be consumed.
And Shadow says, my pop legit used to invite the Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses into the pad to debate the Bible. Yeah, we still just avoided them like the plague. Whenever we saw the J-Dubs in the neighborhood, we were like, like Eddie Griffin said it best. He was like, man, when the Jehovah's Witnesses are out, man, we used to act like it was a gang. Like, the witnesses are out, the witnesses, and everybody be hiding and stuff, locking their doors. Hello, Ali. Glad to see you in here. I got a verse to bring up also. Let's see. This one would be, let's go with 1 Corinthians 6 and 9. It says, Know ye that the unrighteousness shall not inherit the kingdom of God. Be not deceived, neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor abusers of themselves with mankind. Now, fornicators is I'd have to get into a whole lesson in explaining fornication and marriage, which one of these days I might have breaking down what marriage is and what exactly fornication is and stuff like that. But The part I wanted you to focus on is the part when it said effeminate. That's talking about effeminate men will not see the kingdom of heaven, because I remember growing up and they're always talking about how you're supposed to be a warrior for Christ. And they're always talking about this doctrine of being so soft. Ali says, I didn't appreciate the aggressive visits from the JWs. LOL. Yes. I mean, I told you, man, we treat them like they were gangs, man. We literally would hide from them. I mean, literally act like we are not home. Now, when I see Jehovah's Witnesses come to the door, I get excited. I'm like, ooh, I got lunch coming. I'm about to eat. I am about to eat, because I know that they don't know their Bible nearly as well as they think. And especially if I get a Mormon come to the door, I'm going to start hitting them with some of those, what's in the Mormon Bible about what it says about black skin. Because in the Mormon Bible, it literally says that black skin is a curse. And it says that when you get to heaven, everybody's going to have white skin. So, yeah, I don't know if you knew that, Fuzz.
No. Sounds absurd.
There we go. That's funny. She says also, I am gloom. So you're the gloom. All right, let's hop back in.
Myself, and I'm gonna run down, do 2 backflips, and pass out on the altar. Who wants to lose control of themselves? So when a black man goes to church, he wants to see masculinity.
Oh,
and he wants to hear a.
It's not that he wants to see masculinity. It's that he doesn't want to see effeminate behavior leading the church. I mean, it's slightly different, but it's a difference we're seeing. It's not like they like, ooh, I want to go down there and find me a tough man. That's not, no. But they don't want to see their church in this soft spirit. And especially with the civil rights leaders we had, they had a non-violence, peaceful approach, but still were walking straight into the face of danger. That's different than having an effeminate nature like the church has now.
Story that's telling the truth that applies to him, that he can walk away with something as a stronger man, not as a beat down on a Sunday morning, because the preacher may be happening to cater to the majority of the women in the church. So sometimes those messages is that your man ain't this, your man ain't that. And
that's something I did want to stop and make note of. That is something which, for those who are not familiar with the black church is full of women. It is mostly mothers and grandmothers who fill up the church. And occasionally you have a couple of those women who are married and their husbands are normally the deacons and all the stuff like that. But there are not a lot of black men in the church in general. And so this has been more noticing of them because it's always been that way, because it has that effeminate nature. It has that, let's just get slapped on the cheeks and turn the other cheeks mentality, always, in everything. And, another reason why are very submissive. That's probably better. A submissive mentality. And the Bible says that the man is supposed to be the lead and his woman or partner is supposed to be submissive. So you're trying to teach men to be submissive.
I actually got something that just came to mind. You mentioning women, and one more time, bring up again, what is Tammuz significant for?
Tammuz is the son of Nimrod. If we go back into Semiramis, which Easter is basically based off of her. Well, she has a couple of different names. I'm forgetting, what is it? Ostar, something like that. But that's where Easter comes from. It comes from her. She says she came down in an egg. She's divine, and she was with no man when she got pregnant. So she had a divine birth. She was impregnated by Nimrod's sun rays, which birthed Tammuz. Tammuz was killed by a pig. Thus, why a lot of Christians eat ham on Easter.
It's safe to say that Easter is a like very. Would it be safe to say that Easter is considered like an integrated part of like the Black church, like also?
Oh, most definitely.
Oof! I got
Most
another.
definitely.
I got another precept for you right
Okay.
here. All right, this is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 8 and verse 13. He said also unto me, turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations that they do. Then he brought me to the door of the gate of the Lord's house, which was toward the north. And behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz.
Women weeping for Tammuz, exactly. They're still in that same spirit because that's such a great precept you brought up, because they think that they're worshiping for the death, burial, and resurrection of Christ, but really they are the death, burial, and resurrection of Tammuz. In fact, in the Caribbean, I believe it's Haiti, not Haiti, Jamaica. They have these little cakes that all come from the Roman Catholic Church with the little T's on it, and that goes back to Tammuz. So let's hop in. Yeah, let me know if you need me to stop it again.
And everything your man isn't, Jesus is.
Uh-oh.
So the message has not been, and that's not, of course, I'm not talking about every church, because that's certainly not the message in my church, but in several churches that I know. But in many churches, that message is not applicable to the Black man.
I got to read that comment from John because it's such a dead spot on comment. And that gets brought up in here. He says, I have tried to find a church recently and find priests, preachers are money grubbing liars. Finding God again recently, I have given up. I find many haven't read the Bible. That is true. Most preachers do not know the Bible. Or if they do, they've went to seminary school and they've only learned what has been taught to them, which is basically a graduated form of I would say plantation Christianity. This is and ask them. I dare most people, ask the pastors, what has changed in this doctrine that you preach that's different from the Christianity that you taught to the slaves? And I guarantee you ask them that question,
can you highlight that?
Freeze them.
Can you highlight that comment one more time? I might just get a precept for that too. Oh man.
That's what I told you. It's gonna be a lot, and it's gonna lead you a lot of places. Ali says, John, you'd think you'd be able to find one in Chicago too. They're everywhere. Shaking my head. Yeah, I mean, because Christians are not taught the Bible, and even if they do understand the Bible a little bit, most of them don't know anything about ancient history. Most of them are ignorant to a lot of parts of the Bible and what things are saying. Many of them never are, especially in the Black church. They don't understand, language translations. Many Christians will argue you and tell you his name literally is Jesus, when the letter J is only about 400 years old. It's literally impossible for his name to be Jesus, but they will argue you and tell you, oh, it's power in the name Jesus.
So I got my precept, and then you let me know if this sounds very befitting. Concerning tithes in the sense of money grabbing liars. All right, this is the book of Malachi, chapter 3 and verse 7. Even from the days of your fathers, ye are gone away from mine ordinances, and have not kept them. Return unto me, and I will return unto you, saith the Lord of hosts. But ye said, wherein shall we return? Will a man rob God? Yet ye have robbed me. But ye say, wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and offerings.
It's a man talking about tithes and offering a lot of times. And here's the thing about it. I did a video on this going into it. Fuzz, just a quick quiz. Who were tithes supposed to be paid to?
Levites.
And where are tithes supposed to be paid?
The temple.
The temple. Which temple would that be?
The non-existent one.
Exactly. The temple was destroyed in 70 AD. That is the temple where tithes were paid at. Once a year, tithes were paid. And also, tithes, for the most part, were never money. Tithes were normally 10% of your crops that the Israelites got from the land. See, it was the Israelites paying the Levites tithes. Why were they paying the Levites tithes? Because I used to ask people all the time, well, does God need money? No, God doesn't need money. So what are tithes for? Can you answer that, Fuzz? You know?
Ministering the church. Well, ministering the temple.
Exactly. Because the Levites had to maintain the temple. So if they're maintaining the temple and they're doing the sacrifices and all that stuff, when are they going to have time to farm the land? They
also are the only tribe that did not receive a land inheritance from the carving out of the land.
True.
And Yahweh sanctified them as his firstborn, and therefore one of those privileges is all the tithe offerings the Levites receive a portion of it.
Shadow said, "Don't talk about white Jesus like that." John says, "What that guy describes is what I find in black churches in Chicago and the far south where I live." And I think one of these pastors is from Chicago. And it's going to get interesting because think we've only got a couple minutes in, and it starts each round. They start laying in, and it's surprising because they actually start touching on some of the real issues, But the biggest issue they all don't hit. So that's fact. Why are they talking all these tithes and cash? I can't find a preacher who knows. Church is a business in the U.S. from what I see. Correct. What is that one? Let me bring you up. Let me bring you up another scripture. This is Titus, chapter 1 and 11. Actually, you know what? Let's go to Titus 1 and 10. Or actually, Fuzz, you wanna read it?
Is this in the Apocrypha or
Titus? No, it's in the Old Testament.
Oh, damn.
Oh no, wait a minute. Titus is New Testament. Sorry.
1 second.
A small little book. Why did it go to Timothy here?
Oh,
what is this thing doing?
Okay. 1 second.
Yeah. Yeah, I want you to go to Titus 1 and 10. Because this is going to go to what John was just talking about. This is going to go to that precept which Fuzz brought up before. This is important because this is the Bible calling them out. Titus 1 and 10. Or actually, let me see. Let's see. Let's go with Titus 1 and 9. Go on ahead, start there.
This is the book of Titus, chapter 1 and verse 9. Holding fast the faithful word as he hath been taught, that he may be able by sound doctrine both to exhort and to convince the gainsayers.
Sound doctrine, which you will see with a lot of these people, the doctrine is not sound. Because we're going to go into more commentary on different pastors and showing the errors in their understanding. But continue.
Verse 10. For there are many unruly and vain talkers.
Unruly and vain talkers. What is vain? What is vanity?
Pointless.
Pointless, exactly. So what it's saying is it is a lot of unruly and vain talkers. Continue.
For there are many unruly and vain talkers and deceivers,
Deceivers also.
especially they of the circumcision.
Especially they of the circumcision. And what's that mean is even of the actual Israelites. When it's talking about the circumcision, it is talking about blood Israelites. Continue.
Verse 11, whose mouths must be stopped.
The Bible says that these people's mouths need to be stopped. People like this. But we'll let him continue for now.
Who subvert whole houses, teaching things which they ought not, for filthy lucre's sake.
Now, what that means is they're teaching things that they should not be teaching, poor doctrines, bad understandings, for filthy lucre's sake. Do you know what filthy lucre's sake is?
Mm-hmm.
Filthy lucre means for money.
Ooh.
That's what they're doing it for money. So these people subverting whole houses. That means they are teaching people wrong understandings and literally leading people down the broad path, which is the path to death and destruction.
I might get a precept to match that one.
Mm-hmm.
One moment.
Sure.
Fish it. Bring it out.
In fact, let me pull that up in the. The NLT. Let's see what that says in the New Living Translation. Let's see. Why does it keep giving me Timothy, not Timothy? All right. It says Titus 1:11 in the New Living Translation. They must be silenced because they are turning whole families away from the truth by their false teachings, and they do it only for money. That's why I love comparative text. Sometimes it gives you it, and it's very, very clear.
So I think this might be appropriate. Like, these people have no choice but to lie about the word of God.
Some don't even realize they're lying, but some are lying very, very, very willingly.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 44 and verse 24. Thus saith the Lord, thy Redeemer, and he that formed thee from the womb. I am the Lord that maketh all things, that stretcheth forth the heavens alone, that spreadeth abroad the earth by myself, that frustrateth the tokens of the liars, and maketh diviners mad, that turneth wise men backwards, and maketh their knowledge foolish.
Mm-hmm. And that's saying basically from teaching these false doctrines, you lead even the wise men astray. Because when you're dealing with a pastor, these are people who are automatically given a certain level of trust. And so since they're given that level of trust, we automatically assume that these people know how to rightly divide the word, as it says, in which we realize later on that they don't. And then what we try to do is we try to find, a pastor who can rightly divide the word. And what you start finding, like John brought up earlier, it's a racket for most of these people. This is just about making money. But on top of that, I argue most of these people, it's one half trying to make money. The other half is they purely don't know. They are literally doing what they learned in seminary school and just regurgitating the same crap. Hey, Variant, good to see you in here. Let's see. Let's go on and hop back in there.
Yeah. Facts. Wow. And that right there, we can end the show right there. Dr. Thunder, go what's your interpretation of the question?
Yeah. So I've been involved more in the manosphere, the Black manosphere, since the pandemic started. And, I had certain sort of questions about the state of the dating market and, reflecting back on, relationships that I had and then just conversations with other guys about the sort of disproportionate number of negative sort of experiences folks were having. And so I found a lot to agree with. But, I've been in church for, all my life, and I'm the minister of music at a church. And I have a lot of questions about, not at the church that I work at, but just in general, some of the messaging coming from the pulpit and how it seems to be a lot of finger wagging at the men. And part of that, it makes sense, because if most of your church is single mothers, frankly, if most of your church is single mothers, then, you're probably not going to say a whole lot of stuff that's going to sort of call certain judgments, into question. That doesn't make a lot of sense. And, watching one of your videos, you were talking about how, one of the issues is that Black men don't tend to speak up. We kind of just let stuff happen. And, yeah.
And I would stop him there, because it's not that Black men don't speak up. It's you are not allowed to speak up in the church. No church allows you to really speak up. You're told to go sit there and listen. You're not told to question anything. Hey, Mona, good to see you. Glad to see you dropping in. He says it. Well, and another thing about how he talked about they don't. Sorry, loud car in the background distracted me. But it says that they don't say anything towards the they preach mostly against the men and towards the women for another reason. I don't know how many of y'all that either grew up around janky churches or know people who did, but just in my own personal experience, I know of multiple pastors who were sleeping with many women in their congregation, whether they had a first lady of the church or not. I've known of ones who were sleeping with their cousins, getting them pregnant. I've known of pastors who were on the DL who actually had a boyfriend off to the side. And so I know that, like we talked about, that effeminate spirit in the church. Yes, because it's mostly female dominated, and a lot of the men who stick around, which during I want to say in the 90s, you start seeing a big rise in a lot more of the choir directors being of that effeminate spirit. You start seeing a lot more of that. And I know that this is going to be uncomfortable for some people, but in the Black community, because of that church background, I feel like the homosexuality issue has always made a lot of Black men a little bit uneasy when dealing with that subject just in general. And the ongoing secret, which even though in the church the Bible tells you against that, we knew plenty of people in the church were gay. And nobody wanted to call it out. So let's hop back in, because I just wanted to bring up that point. There are plenty of pastors who, they don't want a lot of male members in there, because then that's competition that the pastor has for Sister Jones, who he wants to flirt with after church. Oh yeah, I'm sure your mama, she cooked that good old meatloaf. I'll come over for Sunday dinner. Well, at the same time, they sit up there hitting on every damn woman in there. So let's see. The issue is when someone holds the authoritative key to absolution, they will be infected with tyranny. They shouldn't be, but many do. Many do. John Kemper says, my neighbor, Pastor King, slept with the church women often, exactly, We all know stories of this. This is another thing which leads the men out of the church. The pastor will sit there and act all high and mighty and point all the fingers at. See, problem with your husband is he obviously his spirit ain't right because he ain't praying. That's the reason why he don't get it. That's the reason why he don't have a good job. You know, the pastor got money flowing in. So I'm gonna go down on a rant on these pastors, which one of these days I'm gonna have one commenting on just some. Well, trying to remember what was the name of that video I did, because I have a video where I actually go into the pastors and some of their money. Let's see. I'm just gonna look this up just for the sake of if you guys want to go back and check this video out later. The church is conning you. I did this one on tithes. Church is conning you. Did this one 6 months ago, so that's one to definitely check out. I started off with for the love of money is the root of all evil, which some covet after they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves with many sorrows.
So I guess I have a precept here concerning adultery.
Sure.
And more on the false prophets.
Well, technically, that's not. Well, I guess if they're messing with married women, technically that falls under adultery, because you got to remember if these women are not married, then it's not adultery.
This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 29 and verse 23. Because they have committed villainy in Israel and have committed adultery with their neighbors' wives and have spoken lying words in my name, which I have not commanded them. Even I know and am a witness, saith the Lord.
Mona right here says, when I was in church, I was telling my friend that I was struggling because I didn't want to keep having sex. I was trying to be good. Anyway, this minister overheard. I started walking to my car and he drove up and was like, hey, you want to come over? And I'm like, what? Shaking my head. He couldn't be trying to have sex with me, but help. Yes. And he had a fiance. He was trying to have sex with you because that's what a lot of these horrible pastors do. And I've always thought that it's one thing if I'm wrong on my own. It's another thing if I decide that I'm going to get up in front of a church and lead a flock and do all these types of things. But many of them are out there doing this kind of stuff. And that's another reason why it's leading black men away from the church. I mean, these guys know. Well, these guys will go into it. I guess they're just kind of tiptoeing into it. But we all know why people are leaving the church. It shouldn't be a mystery. One of the biggest reasons is it feels like a con game. And it is a con game because they are extracting money out of people and twisting scriptures to make it look like they're justified in doing it. Two, they're out there sleeping around with every woman in the congregation. Now, according to the Bible, sex is marriage. So when you're having sex with people, that's marriage. Now, though the Bible for men, I know this is going to not sound fair, but many men in the Bible were not in sin having multiple wives. But it does not say that that's all right for a woman. And even when you deal with some of the emotions, when thinking about sex and how it affects women in general, me personally, you guys can beat me up for this, saying this, I don't feel women are built that way to be having sex with multiple people because it is such a personal and emotional connection. I feel men, sorry to say, can do that a little bit differently. I'm not saying every man should. I'm just saying. The Bible The Bible does not. In fact, the children of Israel wouldn't have existed if they didn't, have four mother patriarchs. You had Rachel, Leah, Zilpah, and forgetting the other concubine. The children of Israel literally had 4 different mothers. Abraham, he had 2 different wives before he put Keturah aside. So that is something that you will see a common theme. Solomon had 700 wives, 300 concubines. King David literally had wives that it sounds messed up, but that he passed to his son Solomon. Let's see, using the deception of the divine messenger to, what is the cardinal saying? Yeah. Yes. Ali. Yeah. 700 is that. 1,000. That's going too far, brother. That's going way too far. That's almost just. And this is one thing I never understood. You have this many wives. How could you let? And you're the king. How could you let them turn your heart away from God and start doing things you're not supposed to? I don't get that, because you're literally the king. You make all the rules. Every single woman in that kingdom would be more than likely happy to be, married to the king. And so it shouldn't have been hard to find a woman who was going to be after your own heart and willing to follow the law, statutes, and commandments, versus getting women of all these other nations who had their own different gods who were going to turn you to their gods. Yeah, 300 concubines. How the fuck did he find it? I mean, literally, that's all you would have to do. I mean, you would have to have them on like a 10-a-day schedule or something. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But I mean, I would imagine that he would have to have a bunch of them, which it was just a one-time thing. But because it was one time, that still qualifies as his wife. Shadow says, "What you gonna do with 1,000 ladies?" Laughing my ass off. How are you gonna find the time to be king? How are you gonna find the time to govern? Exactly. And that's why he got his ass in trouble, because he's doing way, way too much. Or do you think they got into it so they could get women? You gotta remember, through succession, he became king. So his father was King David, so he automatically was, he automatically was in line for the throne. So he was going to be king anyway. But, in the Bible, God says that he did choose Solomon. He did want Solomon to be king. And Solomon was a wise king, except for in that regards. That's also why through those women, and that's why it's a parable about not being with so many different women. You could say, when he got with all these different women who weren't after his own heart, they turned him away from following his own God, in which that led to the kingdom being separated between Israel and Judea, and then having 2 kings. And I remember of his sons, I'm trying to remember their name because their names are kind of similar. I want to say not Hezekiah. I don't know why I keep wanting to say Hezekiah. But I cannot remember. Actually, Fuzz, can you look that up? Solomon's sons. Look up his sons, and it'll jog my memory which ones it was, because one became the king of the north, one became the king of the south.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. David got his boy killed just so he could have his friend's wife. Doesn't that sound like a role model? Well, and in the Bible, God says that he was a man after his own heart, except for the matter of with Bathsheba. What's his name? So yes, he did intentionally get her husband super drunk, send him into battle so he would die so that he could take his wife. But even though outside of that matter, he was a man after God's own heart, You know what happened to his son? His son was taken from him. His son died, and that was part of his punishment. So even when you make a mistake and you repent, it does not mean that there still won't be consequences for your actions. Mona says, Marcus, my question was, do you think men in ministry are being like distracted, or do you think they got into the ministry just for long? There are plenty who I know of just, I'll give you one. He calls himself Prophet Karn. This dude's gotten caught in so many different scandals and sleeping with other pastors' wives and all kind of stuff like that. And so, yes, there are some who specifically get in for this. There are plenty who get in specifically for the money, for the power, for the prestige, all of it. And so many, I would say, especially in modern Christianity, are in it for the racket. And I don't care if it's the small little corner church. I include them also. Because some of them just like having that big man on campus type of atmosphere, you know, to walk around places and you're like, ooh, that's the pastor over there. Some of them like that attention. So yeah, go on ahead, Fuzz.
So yeah, concerning Solomon's son, from First Chronicles 3:10, and Solomon's son was Rehoboam.
Rehoboam and Jeroboam. That was their names.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Rehoboam and Jeroboam are the first two kings when the nations Israel and Judea separated.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that, sir.
Mm-hmm.
But let's see, I got working mañana. Have an interesting, provocative conversation this evening. Oh, we will. Thank you, Shadow. And get some rest, brother. We know you get up early. Mona says, oh yeah, John Kemper. What more do we need? Money, power, and sex. LOL. I mean, it's the same thing which men have always fell weak to over and over and over. But there is literally scriptures that tell you to not to go in that route, because you can fall victim basically like Solomon did. You can fall into that same trap if you go overkill in those. Now, it doesn't put a number on it and say, hey, you can't have more than this many wives. But it's expected for you to have common sense to what's, you know, what's beyond the bounds and what's not fruitful.
We should get trucking through, otherwise there's going to be like three parts to this.
Yeah, I know.
We're already approaching the first hour.
Oh yeah. Oh crap! I forgot. I run my mouth too much. I'm sorry. But we did say that we want to answer everybody's questions. So you guys had some good questions and comments.
I mean, and I just, I'm interested in, dialoguing and having conversations about these things, because, Black men are leaving the church, and they're leaving the church in quick numbers, big numbers. And what seems to be happening also is that there's like this nexus between the Black church and the Black manosphere, where the Black men that are leaving
which I'll be honest, when I first heard it here, this is the first time I've ever heard of this Black manosphere. So they're going to say it a lot. I don't know what it exactly is. So sorry, I can't answer that question.
The church, they're rushing into the manosphere. So that's why I thought this was a interesting, conversation.
Okay. No. Great points. Let's go to Pastor Brooks. If we can get Pastor Brooks to weigh in. I think he's on mute. Let me get him off of mute. Go ahead, Pastor.
I know we said we're going to keep going real quick, but I got a question for you, Fuzz. We haven't done anything on the channel yet, but since you brought that up, we will do one on those two tribes in particular, which, if you guys all know, each of the tribes comes from one of the 12 sons. So Ephraim and Manasseh are the two sons of Joseph, which represent one half and another half, which equal the house of Joseph, as in the 12 tribes. But did you? We'll wait. We're gonna go into it Bad Marxists. And thank you for dropping in, by the way. All right, so let me get this started again.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I think you got a few problems. When I started pastoring, I had a church full of women, and I happened to have take a trip to Dallas. And on the plane back, I was sitting with a white gentleman who's a minister at a church in Saginaw, Michigan. I'm on the other side of the state. And he looked at me and he said, "Can I say something to you that's been my experience?" I said, "What is it?" He said, "The black churches in Saginaw, the women are so committed to the pastors that they'll break up their marriages."
Whoa.
And I knew I was having a Kairos moment because I was a brand new pastor. I went back, got all the women off the board, and told them, I said, "You go home and tell your husband that Pastor Brooks said, if you're not happy at home, you can't serve at church." Okay? Because we force men to compete with us as pastors. And women see us their best hour all week, our best hour all week. Okay? The rest is downhill, but they don't see it. And then they wind up comparing their husband to that, and they invest in vision. Some of their husbands don't have vision, and in general, I believe women are great at making vision happen. They're looking for something to do. They're looking for a vision to be part of. And so we had to intentionally turn away from women to men and say that we are a ministry to men for women. Okay, because for every one woman that wants to preach, 9 of them want a husband. And so, so the women who felt they were being discriminated against got mad, but most of the women got happy because
that's something I'll say also. I won't, stop and pull up scriptures and everything real quick, but it says that, I guess I probably should, but it literally says that men are supposed to be head of the church. Women preachers is not a biblical thing. It literally says a woman shouldn't usurp authority over the man. So can women teach other women? Are women supposed to teach the children? Yes, but when they're leading a church, that's when that's going literally against the Bible. So, I just wanted to say that real quick. And thanks for dropping in, Signs. Church is usually social for a lot of people. I would agree. And they bring that good point too.
We were investing in their husbands. And at one point, we were actually had an article on us in Charisma magazine on being 50-50 men and women. Now, of course, that doesn't last long because the women hear about it, But we've intentionally became a church that ministered to men. I quit dressing up all flashy, drove a regular Earthlings car, and told the women, "Do not quote me. Don't go around." I said, because you women wouldn't put up with it. You wouldn't put up with your husband sitting there watching some lady, man, hanging on her every word, talking about her clothes, quoting her, putting her tapes on, putting her CDs in. Ask her, well, honey, what's for dinner? I don't know. Go ask your pastor. They wouldn't put up with it, but we expect men to put up with that. To come someplace where men are obviously playing to women. What man's gonna put up? I'm not gonna put up with that.
Wow, that's a great point, brother Harden.
Now, Mona, I wouldn't go so far as to say that they shouldn't be allowed to speak. They should be allowed to speak. Preaching a little different. I mean, you can come up and because in the Bible it talks about many times where the women were inspiration to the men. Fuzz. Yeah, I guess we do have to stop it on this. Got to bring this verse up. You know which one I want?
Not sure.
Naomi. All right, I'll bring it up. But I'll let it play in the meantime, and I'll bring that back up.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think dealing with larger churches, because so much of the mega church experience is non-communal, what ends up happening, everything is on stage. And so what's on stage ends up being a situation where masculinity, as a musician speaking, dealing with the music and the music portion of service, masculinity has left for a large portion of the music. And it's sort of indicative of what you see with the music industry, the gospel music industry, whether it be with choirs or with solo artists. There becomes more and more of a lack of masculinity. There's been several times in listening to, having the radio on shuffle or my iTunes on shuffle, that the artist I'm hearing, I literally can't tell whether it's a man or a woman. And I go back in my mind back to the days of, Fred Hammond, Marvin Winans. Men had like a sound when, I don't know, it just sounded like we sounded like men. And now it's becoming really, I don't know if the male artists are just really influenced by the female artists that are out, but male artists in general are starting.
Sorry, I had to correct myself. It is not, I don't know why I was thinking Naomi. Naomi is with Ruth. It is Esther in the Bible. And just for time purposes, Esther, because I can't read the whole chapter for everybody, but what Esther basically did is she learned a plot that that the king was planning to do to kill the Israelites. And so she convinced this king to marry her because he thought she was so beautiful. And she actually went in. Okay. And she actually killed the king and helped save the nation. So it's not saying that women don't have a role to play, that their input is not, and that they can't even, lead in certain instances. Especially there's times in the Bible where Israelite men were slaughtered and they were at a deficit, and they needed some of the senior women in the nation to actually teach and kind of guide until the men could be brought back up. Esther actually inspired courage in the men of the nation so that they can actually push back and fight back. So that whole women shut up, sit down, sit in the corner, completely, submissive, almost to like a slave mentality, should never go that far. It literally says Christ loved that you should love your wife like Christ loved the church.
Oh no, Esther was so metal in her namesake book. As soon as Haman was hanged, the one who tried to order the death of Mordecai, and all the Jews, she also said, "No, I want all of Haman's sons to be killed too."
Yes, she literally cut the man's head off and smuggled it out and held the head up to the nation of Israel to inspire courage in them. It's hard to find many more badass women than Esther in the Bible.
Let's actually bring them glorious movement up where a holiday was established of the Feast of Purim.
Yes, which a lot of people, they celebrate all these other holidays, but they don't realize there are so many high holy days in the Bible that you're supposed to be celebrating. Purim, which this comes from Esther's triumph over Haman. Also, you have, for instance, Hanukkah, which a lot of people don't understand what what that's going into. You have Nicanor, all those different things that you need to. Pentecost, Feast of Tabernacles. There's so many different high holy days and feast days which are not, even recognized. But going ahead, Fuzz.
Let's see. Let me find a good place where to start. Dang. What is it? I'm trying to find a good one.
That's what I was trying to think of. Where's the good part to go into where it can get?
Okay, I guess for starters, this is a good place for to start. When Esther had brought up the plot of Haman to have Mordecai killed to the king, was it Artaxerxes? I think.
No, not Artaxerxes.
No. Okay. Let me see. This is the book of Esther, chapter 7 and verse 6. And Esther said, the adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman.
Yeah, Haman.
Then Haman was afraid before the king and the queen. And the king, arising from the banquet of wine in his wrath, went into the palace garden. And Haman stood up to make requests for his life to Esther, the queen. For he saw that there was evil determined against him by the king.
No, that's not. Well, the king is not Haman. I'm trying to. Who the heck was the king? Keep reading. I'll pull it up.
Let me see. Dang, where does she give the order to destroy Haman's sons? Oh, then the king. Okay, this is the book of Esther, chapter 8 and verse 7. Then
actually, you are correct. It's Ashur, but Ashur is actually the first Xerxes.
Okay.
Xerxes, not and then Artaxerxes or Artaxerxes comes later.
Yeah, it's called here Ahasuerus.
Yes. Okay. That I was like, Xerxes. That doesn't sound right, but yeah, he technically is Xerxes.
Then the king Ahasuerus said unto Esther the queen and to Mordecai the Jew, behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and him they have hanged upon the gallows, because he laid his hand upon the Jews.
Okay, so oh yeah, that's right. It was Haman was the one that was killed.
Mm-hmm.
All right, okay. Let's hop back in.
Mm-hmm.
And to sound a lot like women, and that creeps into the church because we're covering a lot of the songs, and so.
And I was just going to throw this in real quick. They're throwing a lot of it on the church coming across feminine. That's part of it, but this is not the main reason. The reason is because people are not getting proper answers in the Bible. You're not, nothing you guys are talking about in the Bible, they see manifesting in their life. When you say, pray for this, pray for that, they're not seeing results of those prayers. And you know why they're not seeing results of those prayers? Because God doesn't hear the prayers of sinners. So if you're out there just doing all of these sins, in every type of way, he's literally not even listening to your prayers. And if you as a pastor are telling these people, oh, all the laws are done away with, you don't have to worry about anything. If you want to eat pork, you can eat pork. If you want to eat shrimp, you can do this. If you don't want to keep any of the dietary laws, you don't want to wear your fringes, you don't want to let your beard grow, you want to shave, you want to make baldness upon your head like he has there. All of these things are laws, statutes, and commandments, which it tells you to do. And Fuzz is just reading about reading the Matthew. Pull up Matthew 5 and 17.
This is the book of Matthew, chapter 5 and verse 7. That I come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill.
Now stop. This is where everybody in the church normally stops. Put a button in it. Oh, he came to fulfill. He's done. That's where they love to stop it at. But let's keep reading. Let's see what else it has to say.
Verse 18. For verily I say unto you.
Actually, hold on one second. Here's the part. They say he came to fulfill. What did he come to fulfill? That's the part where you should ask him, what did he come to fulfill then? Well, he just came to die for our sins. No, he came to fulfill a lot more than that. And there are many prophecies which in the Bible which had not been fulfilled. Continue.
Verse 18. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled.
Until all be fulfilled. All has not been fulfilled. And so that means that they should still be following the law, statutes, and commandments, which they are not. Many of these churches teach we're under the laws of Christ. Well, Christ didn't have a New Testament. What was Christ teaching out of? The book of Moses, the Old Testament, so-called Old Testament. That's what he's teaching out of. So how would Christ have been teaching them anything any different than what's in the old so-called Old Testament? Means the law, statutes, and commandments. Christ, in the Bible, you can even find where a woman touched basically the bottom of his hem. And if you translate that, that translates to fringe. What'd you have, Fuzz?
No, I was going to turn over to Matthew. Like just 2 examples.
Sure, go ahead.
Of him following the law in the very first sermon that was ever put to the scroll that he did in the book of Matthew. This is Matthew chapter 5 and verse 4. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. This refers to Exodus 22, the book of Exodus 22 and verse 20, chapter 22 and verse 22. Ye shall not afflict the widow or fatherless children.
Afflict, yeah. And the church is doing a lot of that.
And let's see. Verse 29. And if thy right eye offend thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell. This is referring to any law in the Torah that essentially ends with, ye shall put evil away from Israel.
Yeah, John says he made adjustments to Moses' words, which were scrolled. All he did was paraphrase a lot of things which Moses said. He paraphrased and he used lines from various different scriptures. And then if you go back, you'll read in totality and you'll see, oh, wait a minute, he's just saying this from this chapter. So let's hop back into it.
As a masculine man, it just becomes very unappealing. So yeah, I think that has a great part into why black men are leaving the church.
Wow, these are things I never thought about, man. Okay, let's go to Brother Cedric, and then we go to Brother Coleman. Go ahead, Brother Cedric.
Yes, sir. Honestly, I still have more questions than answers, to be honest with you. So my direct answer is I'm not exactly sure, right? My observation is that I think sometimes the Black Christian church at large can create like maybe not create, but cultivates a sense of submission that's not necessarily attractive to us as men. And I believe that sort of puts us in a position where we have to, I guess, observe some of it confronts our inner self, and we have to deal with things that don't necessarily resonate, right? So for me, I think that's really what it's about. Like the environment that's cultivated don't necessarily speak to us or speak to our masculinity equally. It's not socially relevant at times. It's not, economically relevant at times. And then, as I think the pastor alluded to earlier, the system that's set up in terms of the hierarchy, where you may have someone that you're engaging your
Now, when they talked about a little bit about the masculinity part, here, I got one for you. Luke 22, 36 through 38. All right, got to call it night. All right, yeah, thanks for dropping in, Ali.
This what was
Yeah.
it?
Luke 22, 36 through 38.
This is the book of Luke, chapter 22, verse 36 through 38.
Yes.
Then said he unto them, but now he that hath a purse, let him take it, and likewise his scrip. And he that hath no sword, let him sell his garments, and buy one. For I say unto you, that this that is written must yet be accomplished in me. And he was reckoned among the transgressors. For the things concerning me have an end. And they said, Lord, behold, here are 2 swords. And he said unto them, it is enough.
See what he's telling them there? He's literally commanding them to take up swords. Now, in modern day, we don't walk around with swords, but it's literally telling you to keep a weapon with you. Now, if you're a submissive, effeminate Christian, what are you going to do with it? Most Christians will tell you, well, if somebody's going to harm you, just let them do it. Doesn't tell you to do that. Now, it does tell you to not harm the people of your own nations, but if somebody from another nation is coming to attack you, it does not tell you to just lay down for that. Because think about it. If you had that passive attitude, it tells you, for one, it doesn't say thou shalt not kill in the Bible. It says thou shalt not murder. You are allowed to defend yourself. But the Christian church tells you that you shouldn't do any of that stuff, that you should just be about peace and don't worry. Don't even be upset about things. God will handle everything. All right, John, I'll catch you later, brother. But thank you, everybody who was able to swing through.
I wonder if this precept might be a bit befitting. Let's see. Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 66. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shall have none assurance of thy life.
Not quite. I mean, this is kind of, I guess, because of the status that we're in now, and because that this is the doctrine that they preach, you will have no assurance of life because you will be in fear. You won't be able to defend yourself in any kind of way if you have the heads of your congregation telling you to basically lay down all the time and be submissive.
Okay.
Spouse, your wife, or your family, following after someone else, and that just, I think, for a man that wouldn't work and it wouldn't be as attractive. So.
Okay. No. Great points. And for the TK, the lifer, you've been in church for a long time. Go ahead, brother.
A long time, guys. Well, I think about a verse in Ecclesiastes where it says that I've observed slaves riding about on horseback and princes walking about on foot as if they were slaves. I think the great tragedy of life is that as men, we were created to live lives of power and possibility, but we actually live lives of bondage and enslavement.
The most true thing that anybody has said here. But the black church doesn't connect you to the fact that you are a slave. They tell you you're not. You're already saved. Now, and most black men who are seeing, us get shot down on the news all the time do not feel like they are free. They feel like they're in bondage. And so this brother TK Coleman brings up a very, very, very strong point. Now, I wish that he had more understanding of exactly what that verse is going into, even more detail, but he did bring up a solid point. I want you to bring up Isaiah 56 and 10.
Okay. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 56 and verse 10.
Mm-hmm.
His watchmen are blind. They are all ignorant. They are all dumb dogs. They cannot bark, sleeping, lying down, loving to slumber.
Now, we're going to read that again and we're going to break that down because this is, we're just going to go ahead and read it.
Verse 10. His watchmen are blind.
Now, what are watchmen? Watchmen are the people who are supposed to guide you and lead you, i.e., our pastors are supposed to be the watchmen and leaders. What does it say about these watchmen and leaders?
They are all ignorant.
They are ignorant. And it's obvious because, for one, they don't understand the scriptures. If they have the mentality in the church into a submissive nature, it's because obviously they put it into a submissive nature and they've led it in that direction. Continue.
They are all dumb dogs.
They are all dumb dogs, exactly, because they do not know what they are teaching. Continue.
They cannot bark.
They cannot bark. Why does a dog bark?
To intimidate.
To intimidate. What else?
Strike fear. Well, yeah, the same thing as intimidate. Yeah, but
what does a watchman do?
Bring. If I remember, Ezekiel highlights the definition.
Oh, just think about it simply. What does a watchman do?
Watch
Literally,
out.
A watchman watches out. A dog barks to warn you. Now, if they are our watchmen, they're dumb dogs that don't bark. That means that they don't warn us or protect us from anything. That's why it says they're ignorant. Continue.
Sleeping, lying down, loving to slumber.
Sleeping, lying down, loving to slumber because they're comfortable. That's what you do when you're sleeping, right? You're comfortable when you're sleeping. These pastors, because of the wealth that many of them have, because of this stature and status that many of them have, are comfortable. It literally tells you that you were supposed to go out to the highways and byways a lot of times to go out there and preach the word. How many of these pastors been around 20, 30, probably 40 years, ain't never went out and tried to preach to anybody out on the street corners? Or even just randomly walking up to people and start talking to them about the word. I do that anytime I can get a person to start talking to me about the word anywhere. It doesn't matter if I'm at the grocery store. It doesn't matter if I'm out in the parking lot. It doesn't matter if I'm walking out to get the mail. If somebody wants to start talking the word and I can get their attention to start talking the word, I will do it. I don't care if I'm at work on the clock. I'll start talking the word if I can. But the moment I see that opening, I try to spread that word. And a lot of these pastors sit back comfortable. They wait till Sunday. Now it's time to talk, or they just speak soft words. Let me continue.
I wonder if this would be like a worthy precept to bring up. Genesis 49:9. Judah is a lion's whelp from the prey, my son. Thou art gone up. He stooped down, he couched as a lion and as an old lion. Who shall rouse him up?
I mean, I guess I can see, you know, a lion is supposed to be mighty, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're a mighty lion, you strike fear. The lions of Judah don't strike any fear. Neither do the old lions. The old lions sit there comfortably. So, I mean, our leaders are not warning us. And also, how are you running around with a feminine spirit and being a lion? That's the reason why we need to be roused up. Now, I would go to that scripture as far as where we need to go, the mentality which we need to be in, the spirit that we need to be in, because we are not in that spirit. Because as they've said multiple times, the church has an effeminate spirit. If you have an effeminate spirit, you're not like a lion.
Moving on.
Matt Marks says it's funny. He said, "This came to me, year of our Lord 2022. I heard a man reading the scriptures fitted with a KC hat. This after seeing a man address Congress dipped a Yankees hat. End times is approaching." I thought that if I figured the day I saw the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, the end times were going to be coming. And sure enough, a couple of years ago, I did see them win the Super Bowl, and it is inching closer and closer. So I wonder what that'll tell you. All right, let's hop back in.
Because we don't know who we are, what we're capable of, and why we are here.
That's bingo. That is why a lot of people are leaving the church, because they don't know who they are and why they are here. The church doesn't serve to tell us anything. It serves as to be a social club, to relax, to go in and hang out. Let me see. There's one other that I want you to read for me, Fuzz. Isaiah 30:10.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 30 and verse 10, which say to the seers, see not, and to the prophets, prophesy not unto us right things, speak unto us smooth things, prophesy deceits.
Could you read that? Could you read that one more time for me?
Which say to the seers, see not, and to the prophets, prophesy not unto us right things.
Now, the seers. Who are the seers? The seers, the watchmen, the same people, the pastors. The seers are not seeing. The prophets are not prophesying. And why are they not prophesying? Continue.
Prophesy not unto us right things.
Yeah, they don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear what the Bible's really talking about. What do they want to hear?
Speak unto us smooth things. Prophesy deceits.
Speak unto us smooth things. Prophesy deceit. So what they're saying is, don't tell us what's really going on. Speak to us things that we want to hear. Lie to us. Lie to us and tell us what we want to hear instead of telling us the truth. All All right, let's get back in because maybe this brother got something else interesting to say.
And the purpose of the church is to help us discover and do that. Jesus echoed these sentiments when he said, I have come that you might have life and life more abundantly. The book of Genesis tells us that we were created in the image and likeness of God. We're meant to exercise dominion over the earth. We're meant to be individualized expressions of creative ability.
Now, how do you express dominion in an effeminate spirit like all these brothers keep talking about? Can't.
And the church has replaced a gospel that is meant to teach us about that with a gospel of sin management.
Sin management, exactly. Every church I've ever been to, I'm a sinner. Proudly say that they're a sinner. When the Bible tells you shouldn't be a sinner. When it tells you to strive to be perfect. Now, that's not perfect in the sense which we understand. It's perfect as in complete. You should be striving to follow the law, statutes, and commandments. Instead of saying, well, I'm going to try to do better next time. This defeatist mentality, or deciding that you're only going to have a couple of things that you want to follow. You're going to pick and choose which commandments you believe in. Like Christians talk about, well, I don't want to hear anybody who uses profanity or bad language. Oh, it doesn't tell you that in the Bible. That's not a commandment that tells you not to use foul language. In fact, hold on, let me give it to you. Second Corinthians 11:6.
One second. 11. All right. So this is 2 Corinthians. What?
2 Corinthians 11:6.
This is 2 Corinthians 11:6. But though I be rude in speech, yet not in knowledge.
Though I be rude in speech and not in knowledge. So it's not. So these people who are so worried about hearing a freaking bad word, you're paying attention to the wrong thing. Your focus is wrong. If that's all it takes to run you off from a message, to hear a bad word, though I be rude in speech. Continue.
Yet not in knowledge.
Yet not in knowledge. Continue.
But we have been thoroughly made manifest among you in all things. Verse 7. Have I committed?
That's good.
All right.
And go to 2 Kings. Chapter 2:23. Because Christians all the time say curse. I don't want to hear nobody cursing. You want to hear? Let's go into what a curse is in the Bible. I'm going to show you a time where there's a curse.
2 Kings 2:23.
Yeah, 2:23.
This is the book of 2 Kings, chapter 2:23. And he went up from thence unto Bethel. And as he was going up by the way, there came forth little children out of the city, and mocked him, and said unto him, Go up, thou bald head. Go up, thou bald head. And he turned.
Now hold on a second. Now these are some kids who are mocking one of the prophets while he's out trying to do the Lord's work. Mocking him for having a bald head. Continue.
Verse 24. And he turned back and looked on them and cursed them in the name of the Lord. And there came forth 2 she-bears out of the wood, and 42 children of them.
And that's what a curse is. When he literally curses to God for 2 bears to come out of the woods and kill 42 kids. That's what a curse is. You see what we mean about this effeminate spirit in the church? You said a bad word. Oh, my feelings are hurt. That spirit is why it's and most of that spirit comes from the women leading the church, or at least guiding the rules of the church, making the church soft. The old prophets of old literally would curse kids and call upon wild animals to kill them, take their life. And some of y'all are so worried about a bad word being said.
Oh man. All right. I got like this. First of all, like these are children that are just with words, just making fun of the prophet in the middle of him working. And it was Elisha, right? The cursed children? Yeah.
Yes.
Elisha called on the Heavenly Father to bring forth 2 bears to tear up 42 children. And the Lord said, I got you.
Yes, the Lord said, I got you. Good.
Like, I just, like, this is the Father we serve, man. This is, like,
that's what I'm saying. The Christian, I don't know what, that's the reason why, because that's the reason why people are leaving the church, because your doctrine is not correct. You guys are worried about smooth things being said to you. You guys want smooth things. You don't want to hear right things that come across roughly. You are in that effeminate female spirit in the church. How can you be? And I remember one of the songs they used to sing, "Onward, Christian Soldier." What kind of soldiers are y'all? Probably the weakest army I've ever thought about running into. No toughness in the Christian church. Sorry, go ahead, Fuzz.
This is something that I also like Hassada Sakari often points out, or at least one time, and it's stuck with me like so much because it's like something that the Heavenly Father cares about, that like I always like frowned upon in religion, or like just being just like, oh no, forgive your enemies, and just, yeah, like no, like the emotion of revenge, like for people that wronged you. This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 25 and verse 17. Remember what Amalek did unto thee by the way, when you were come forth out of Egypt, how he met thee by the way, and smote the hindmost of thee, even all that were feeble behind thee, when thou wast faint and weary. And
now, y'all hear that? Hold on, no. Let's slow that down a little bit, so people can know what you're talking about here. Let's start at the top.
Verse 17. Remember what Amalek did unto thee by the way.
Now remember what your enemy, your brother tribe, did to you. Remember what they did. Continue.
When you were come forth out of Egypt.
Now this is after they had just been running from the Pharaoh for their life, just crossed through the sea. After all that they had been going through, what did Amalek do?
How he met thee by the way, and smote the hindmost of thee.
So he came up behind the back of the unit, killing them from behind. Killing who? In particular, who did Amalek go after?
Even all that were feeble behind thee.
So he killed the weak and innocent, killed the elderly, children. That's what Amalek did. Continue.
When thou wast faint and weary.
So he came up while y'all were weak and tired, fresh out of Egypt, running from the Pharaoh and all of his horde out of Egypt. They decided to come up on Israel while they were tired and weary, more than likely dehydrated and famished. and started attacking unprovoked, killing the innocent, the elderly, the feeble, so killing handicap. Continue.
And he feared not God. Verse
Mhm.
19. Therefore it shall be, when the Lord thy God hath given thee rest from all thine enemies round about, in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance, to possess it, that thou shalt block out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven.
Blot.
Blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven.
And
Thou
you
shalt
guys
forget
know what that means, to blot out? Think about it, man. You're writing something with a pen and you write it the wrong way. You get some white out and you cover it up. That's blotting it out. That's what he's saying that you need to do to your enemy Amalek in the end.
I got one more.
Okay.
All right. So the book of Deuteronomy was written by Moses around, like, from what my study Bible here tells me, is between 1410 and 1395 BC. Let's say like 1400 BC, just to be neat.
That's about right. I mean, Jacob and Esau were born around 1800.
All right. Now, just to put this into perspective, like, here is 1 Samuel chapter 15 and verse 2. Thus said the Lord of hosts, I remember that which Amalek did to Israel, how he laid wait for him in the way when he came up from Egypt. When was 1 Samuel written? Like according to this study Bible, it was around 1050 to 931 BC. So let's say,
What about 500-year difference?
yeah, 500 years of difference. Like, just countless descendants of Amalek, like nowhere even close to being tied to what Amalek did to Israel. And yet here, almost around 500 years difference, here is verse 3, an order from the Heavenly Father. Now go and smite Amalek, and utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not, but slay both man and woman, infant and suckling, ox and sheep, camel and ass. Anything with involving Amalek that lives, I don't want it to breathe.
If you're gonna go ahead and read that one, then I feel you might as well read Exodus 17 and 16.
Exodus 17.
Because he's already established basically close to 1,000-year period. Over 1,000-year period that they are still remembering all the problems they've had with Amalek.
This is book of Exodus, chapter 17 and verse 16. For he said, because the Lord hath sworn that the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. So,
this soft, effeminate spirit, that doesn't track with the Bible. Let's get back in here. We'll do a little bit more, and then wherever we stop at, we'll just pick up at that point on the next class.
Gospel that literally idolizes all of the wrong things that we shouldn't be doing. We have forgotten why sin is such a tragedy. It's not a tragedy because God doesn't want us to have fun. It's a tragedy because it blinds us to our potential and causes us to miss out on all the beauty that we're meant to create.
On that part where he's a little wrong, he doesn't want us to do sin because sin kills us. If you are not following the dietary laws and you're out there eating pork and shrimp and all this stuff like that, it is literally bad for you. It leads us to hypertension, high blood pressure, cholesterol issues, all of these different issues. That's the reason why it's a sin. It tells us not to it tells us not to commit adultery. What normally happens when you hear about when a guy who normally has a gun, if a guy has a gun on him and he walks in and catches his wife cheating, how many times have we heard about somebody getting shot and killed over that? These commandments are for our safety and for our good, to protect us. If we were treating each other like we were brotherly, then we would be helping each other as a nation instead of selling poison to each other or robbing each other or killing each other. That's what the commandments are for. It's not about this weird potential vague kind of thing. No, it's because if we do not follow these commandments, we destroy ourselves.
And so I think there are so many men in the church today who have all of this ambition, all of this passion, this desire for power. And the only thing the church is teaching them is all of the sinful ways that they should not express it. And so when the manosphere and other places say, hey, men, let us tell you what your feelings are for. Let us tell you what your sexual energy is for. Of course, they're going to listen because the church isn't doing its job.
Yeah, worrying about what your feelings are for. That's going back into that effeminate spirit that we talked about. I mean, it's let's just keep going.
Let me ask a question to the entire panel, because I know that when we were in the,
and we'll do this last question here, and then we'll end after we hear their responses and give our rebuttals.
manosphere, maybe a few years ago, we didn't have, at least I don't think, the ears of the professional African American class brothers as much as we do now. But as are all of you familiar with what is known as the Black manosphere that are on the panel? Okay, what now? Why do you believe? And I want to know this because, as professional African American men that done things in your life, what then can be done in the state of where the church is today to win African American men who have lost hope in the church in the last 40, 50 years? Is there any hope that those guys are going to come back? And if so, how do you get them back? Anybody can start. It's no order this time. Go ahead, Pastor Brooks.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I believe absolutely. I believe they have to. They have to come back. But I think it's a matter of come back to what?
Right.
As the other brother mentioned, I can't remember all the names, but he said he's a reformer. So when you are reforming something, you want to go back to the original blueprint and the pattern. And that is, why do you even go to church anyway? And I think that's why a lot of people leave, because they lost touch with why.
And therein lies a big problem. Most people go to church for the initial reason because their parents took them to church. They didn't go because of an actual commitment or understanding in the Bible. They went out of habit or being forced to or indoctrination.
One guy asked me, because we have a large church in a small town, he said, why do you people come to church? I said, to be transformed, man, to have their lives, be connected with God and live on purpose and be successful. And I said, well, why do people go to church in your city? He said 3 things: to see their friends, to see what everybody has on, and for entertainment. And so he didn't even stop. The best preachers, the best choirs get the biggest crowds. And so he didn't even think about it. And so I think we've lost touch with what even the purpose of the gospel is, the purpose of the church.
Because you don't know what the gospel is. My goodness. Would you like to pull up the gospel?
Where to?
Let me see. Was it Isaiah? Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
Mm-hmm.
I will be right back. Sorry about that. The gospel. Isaiah 61.
Mm-hmm.
See, the Christians think the gospel is Jesus died, on the cross for our sins. That's what they believe the gospel is. Gospel, it literally tells you that's the gospel. Isaiah 61. And let's start with 1.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 61, and verse 1. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord hath anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek.
Good tidings or gospel, because gospel means good tidings. Continue.
He hath sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives.
Stop right there. To bind up the brokenhearted, and liberty, freedom to the captives. Now, didn't that brother earlier today said it's almost like we're captives? Like we're still captives today? Now, it says liberty to the captives. What else does it say about the gospel?
And the opening of the prison to them that are bound.
The opening of the prisons. Continue.
Verse 2. To proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord, and the day of vengeance of our God.
And the day of vengeance for our God. That's the vengeance for our God is a big part of the gospel, which Christian church doesn't understand that. Continue.
To comfort all that mourn. Verse 3. To appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called trees of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that he might be glorified.
Continue. Keep going.
And they shall build the old wastes, they shall rise up the former desolations, and they shall repair the waste cities.
And this is talking about the land of Israel repairing it and building up the waste cities when the Israelites are back into the land, when the Messiah has delivered them. Continue.
The desolations of many generations.
Mm-hmm.
Strangers shall stand and feed your flocks.
Strangers should stand and feed your flocks. What else are these strangers going to be doing?
And the sons of the alien shall be your plowmen and your vine dressers.
Plowmen and vine dressers. Doesn't that sound similar to what happened to the Israelites in Deuteronomy 28?
Mm-hmm.
Just checking. Let's keep going.
But ye shall be named the priests of the Lord. Men shall call you the ministers of our God. Ye shall eat the riches of the Gentiles.
Hold on a second. What? Okay, so he said we're going to be the priests of the Lord and we're going to eat the riches of the Gentiles. So for those people who think, oh, well, everybody's going to be equal. Well, how can you have equality if the Israelites are going to be the priest and the Gentiles, we're going to be eating up their, read that again. We're going to be eating up what? The riches?
Ye shall eat the riches of the Gentiles.
Now,
and
did this not happen in Deuteronomy 28? What was happening to the Israelites? That their riches were being eaten up, that the work they put forward was being devoured by someone else? I mean, this sounds a whole lot like Romans 9 and 13. But for those who don't know, let's hold that real quick. I'll pull up Romans 9 and 13.
Mhm.
But I want you to keep a button in that. Romans 9 and 13. Let's see. Romans 13. Sorry. Romans 13, 9. For this thou shalt not commit adultery. Wait a minute. What? Oh, this is good. Okay. Thou shalt not kill the women. Romans. Revelation. Sorry. Revelations 9 and 13. Wrong one. I was like, wait a minute, that didn't sound right. Revelations 9 and yes, Revelations 13. Why do I keep saying that backwards? Revelations 13 and 9. If any man have an ear, let him hear. 10. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here's the patience and the faith of the saints. Now, this is what the saints are patiently waiting for. This is what happened to them in Deuteronomy 28. Now let's get back to what it's saying in Isaiah 61.
But ye shall be named the priests of the Lord. Men shall call you the ministers of our God. Ye shall eat the riches of the Gentiles, and in their glory shall ye boast yourselves.
All right, good there. And I see Lainey in the chat. Hello, Lainey. Yeah, we're getting close to the end of this, but we are going to continue part 2 of this. I'm going a little bit more because we wanted to get through this last question he has here. But I mean, echoing this same topic, he says that, you know, they've lost track of what they're teaching, why people are there, the foundation. And it is lost. A lot of people go there just because it's habit, go there to see some friends, go there because their mom is going to be mad at them if they don't go to church, go because, oh, well, it's Easter, so I guess I'm going to show up. It's Christmas, you know, oh, well, I didn't have communion, I'm going to go to church now. It's not about a relationship with God. It's not about understanding the Bible. That's not what a lot of these people go to church for.
And the one brother was really hitting him when he said we've changed the message. And so you ask yourself, I know why I go to Red Lobster. I know why I go to the doctor. I know why I go to school. Why do I go?
I got to stop it right there.
And so
therein is part of the problem there, Pastor. You just literally said, I know why I go to Red Lobster.
Terrible.
If it's telling you that you should be keeping the commandments, dietary law is not a hard thing for you to keep, Pastor, but you're telling people about going to Red Lobster. Even if you don't want to look at it from a biblical standpoint, that you know the Bible tells you not to eat, you know, certain foods. Look at it as what these foods do to your body. A lot of these seafoods, what do you have to put on them? A lot of butter, a lot of salt. What does that stuff do to us? It's bad for you. Just like I said before, it goes into high blood pressure, it goes into hypertension, it goes into cholesterol, it goes into all of these things which kill you. It's not that if you eat pork or you eat shellfish or you eat catfish that these things are just going to automatically kill you. It's that when you eat this, it is bad for your health and it will slowly kill you over time. It will shorten your lifespan. Also, on top of it, just another thing, there's a such thing as maintaining the ecosystem. If shrimp, crab, lobsters, mussels, all these things are supposed to be in the ocean to help keep the ocean clean, then how are we going to keep the ocean clean if you're eating all the stuff that's supposed to keep it clean? It's just like what happened down in Brazil. They're cutting down all the trees, which is basically the lungs of the planet. How is your air going to be clean if you're killing off parts of your own ecosystem? This is why people are leaving the black church, because pastors are leading them astray.
We have to go, and that purpose is still needed. That ministry that we're called to is still needed. And once we start doing it, I've never had trouble getting men in church. And we quit playing to the feminine and actually quiet down some of these feminine men, because guys, real men have an aversion to that stuff. They don't want to be identified with that. And so there's some things that we need to do intentionally to get them back.
When you said things to be done intentionally, can you just briefly, what are some of those intentional things?
Okay, well, how can I say it? Men we're less emotional driven. You know, like one brother said, you run down to the end of the aisle and all that stuff. I don't need that every week. I don't need a diet, of that. If something breaks out one Sunday out of—
Wait a minute, you just said he don't need that every week. Why do you need that at all? Why do you need circus in church instead of actual understanding of the doctrine? Why do you need any of this hooting and hollering and all that? In all honesty, do you really even need songs in church? A lot of these churches, do you need praise dancers? Do you need all this stuff? The reason why you keep all that stuff is because your message is watered down. You don't have anything that you're actually preaching or teaching that's giving them any kind of connection to the Father. So what do you do to keep the butts in the seats? Entertainment. It's the same thing with like the Showtime Lakers. The NBA was going into the tubes. How did they save it? By dressing up the Laker girls in short outfits, by getting celebrities to sit in the stands, by more bread in circuses. That's what the church is doing to maintain people in the congregation, because they are not teaching a true message. That's the reason why the black church in general, which black people still population-wise lead out of any other demographic in going to church or saying that they are religious to some degree. But it has fallen away because of you guys, let's just say it, failure to teach directly and correctly.
Of the year and cool, but I don't need that every week. And so I need to know how to solve problems. And is the Bible a relevant book for solving the problems that I face? How to live with my wife, how to support my family, how to make it around the obstacles and not shoot nobody. You know what I'm saying? How to maintain myself, how to have self-control, how to have vision, how to walk those things out. And I think when people are exposed to that, they relate to it and they're drawn to it.
Okay, anybody else? Oh, Pastor Coates, go ahead.
Here, before the pastor gets in, let me read this quick comment from Laney. It says, at Hebrew Apologetics with Marcus and Fuzz, did you know that I went to seminary? I think I did know that, but I don't want to be lying. But I think I remembered hearing you talk about it a couple of years back. So I would love to talk religion with you sometime. Hey, well, you know what? I'll make sure to DM you and talk about it. But yeah, I mean, I'm all down to talk about it. You know, me and Fuzz here. This is what we live by. This is our guiding star, our measuring stick. So, all would love to talk to you about it, and I'll send you a message. And then and any topic that you'd like to go into in particular, you know, we can go into it and then have you on the show and we can go into. So, yeah, but I will be excited to definitely do that. Oh yeah, and by the way, since I got you on here live, I am setting up an interview with Kit to come on for an interview, and I will tag you in that if you're interested in coming on to talk about elections. So just let me know. I'll message you and just let you know. Did my master's thesis on women in Pentecost? Oh, then I know what I would want to talk to you about. Definitely, I know exactly what I want to talk about. We brought it up a little bit earlier when we were talking about Esther, and so I would definitely like to hear some of your exegesis on Esther, on Naomi and Ruth, and
On
somebody. What did you say?
on which show?
Heartlands Media.
No. Like, Kit, you have an interview on Kit with Kit. Which
I'm working on one. Oh, that'll be on the What We've Been Thinking channel on the What I've Been Thinking. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm trying to figure if he wants to come on the Political Matrix or What We've Been Thinking. All depends on the schedule. I know that they're busy over there. Got a lot of stuff going on with the 99 Perspectives studio, and so much respect and shout out to Heartlands Media. Always got a lot of love from my Midwest peeps. Yeah, working on that. But yeah, I would love. And who else was I thinking? A story in the Bible which doesn't get talked about very much. Let me know if you want me. Yes, could you please send it to me? Please send me your thesis. Dinah. Dinah is often not talked about very much at all. And because of how...
As a tribe, right?
Well, no. Well, Dinah wasn't given a tribe. But Dinah is one of the 13 children of Jacob. Okay. Only the men had tribes. But Dinah, her what happened to her with Shechem. Now, of course, you know what happens. You know with was it Levi and Simeon? But I've never gotten to talk to a woman who's familiar with what happened with Dinah and just her, like from a woman's perspective, what that experience would have been like for the father to be kind of despondent toward what happened because he was so focused on his other children and how I won't spoil it and keep talking, but I know Lainey knows what I'm talking about, what happened between Dinah and Shechem. And so I don't want to spoil that either for the audience. I'll let you guys go do your research and dig. But it's definitely a very, very interesting story. Yes, I definitely want to do that. All right, let's see a little bit more. Let's see what Pastor Coates has to say, because I honestly feel a lot of these pastors focus on effeminate nature in the church. And like I said, it has something to do with it. But the overarching theme for me and most of the people I know of who left the Black church, that wasn't the reason why. It's because when I asked pastors questions, I did not get satisfactory answers. And multiple pastors I would not get answers from. And so if you can't answer the question for me, then eventually and I feel like if you don't have the answer, say you don't have the answer. Say you don't have proper understanding. But a lot of pastors will just say, oh, well, just pray on it, or oh, don't worry about that, or this isn't important, or whatever. Make up whatever excuse they want to not go into what I'm asking. But what that does to a young mind is it checks out. I start going into being more agnostic, whereas I started to not know what to believe in the Bible because you couldn't give me answers on these couple of things. So how do I know what to believe? And so, I don't want to get too much into my own psyche, because I know a lot of other Black males out there have their reasoning, and I wanted to talk about this topic in particular because, like I said before at the beginning, this is not something which is only an American problem for the Christian church. This is literally happening around the world. Wherever there is a diaspora of the Black community who are religious. This happened in the UK. This happened in Germany. This happened in Scotland. This has happened, well, it's not very many Black people in Scotland, but if they had a Black church, I imagine it probably would be happening. But this happens in Brazil. This happens, you know, in Puerto Rico. This happens in Cuba. This is happening in many places. All right, so let's hop back in. Yeah, Fuzz, we're only gonna go a little bit more.
And I thank Pastor Brooks for his contribution, and I think that the process of problem solving just doesn't take place on Sunday morning or on a Wednesday night. It's a 7-day-a-week process. The church, the Black church, is embedded.
Well, and there's another thing. I'm sorry, I couldn't let that go when I started thinking Sunday. Fuzz, can you explain why I have an issue when I keep hearing Sunday?
It is not the seventh day.
Exactly. Sunday is the first day of the week. Why is a church making the first day of the week basically their Sabbath? And if you are making it into a version of the Sabbath, why is it let me get out of church to hurry up and go catch a football game? Why is it let me go run out and go and spend money and buy and sell when you're not supposed to do that on the Sabbath? And also just the fact of where Sunday even comes from. Sunday goes into sun worship, which this is when more paganism, and coming from the Greek, this is Apollo being brought into Christianity. It's just the same thing like when you read a lot of the Greek period, when it starts talking about Hades in the Bible. What is Hades doing in the Bible at all? And that's what I'm saying, my issue I'm having.
Isn't there a lot of cooking going down usually on Sundays with church gatherings also?
Yeah, so if it's supposed to be your Sabbath, you're not supposed to be sparking a flame inside of your dwelling. So many things. And just like this pastor says all the time, well, I was saved. What are you actually saved from? If the one what was his name, TK, if he brought up the fact of I see servants on horses and prince walking the earth, and that we're still in a form of captivity, then what are you saved from? You're not saved yet from anything. And I know you have a precept for that, Fuzz. Endure to the end. You know what I'm talking? You know which one I want?
Not really. Drawing a blank.
Hold on a second. I'm forgetting which. There we go. Matthew 24:13.
I ain't that far yet.
Yeah, that's what I figured. You weren't quite there yet. Yeah, Matthew 24:13.
Not that far away, but
No, you're not that far away, but this is when you're saved.
this is Book of Matthew 24 and verse 28?
No, 24 and 13, I believe.
13. Oops. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved.
Yes, endure till the end. You're saved. It's like saying literally in the middle of like the third quarter, in your senior year. Hey, I already graduated. No, you did not. You haven't finished the year out yet. And that's kind of all of us. We are all still going through the process. None of us is at the end of anything yet. So nobody is saved from anything yet. He who endures till the end is saved, will be saved. This is not the end yet. And pastors are teaching this doctrine of, I'm already saved. Are you saved? Nobody is saved yet. And you're getting in dangerous lanes when you start putting that doctrine out to people, because it lets people take their foot off the pedal and relax. Boy. I'm gonna let this pastor finish.
In the Black community, in every neighborhood, there may be 2, 3, 4, 5 auditoriums, multiple classrooms, boardrooms. The church is set up to be an educational institution within our community, and we must educate our people. How that Carter G. Woodson said, the miseducation of the Negro. Well, we need to educate the folks, because people need answers, they need problem solving, and we need to be aggressively engaged in solving the problems that Black men contend with day in and day out, helping us to navigate through a complicated system. See, Black people and Black men, we just don't, we live in the general society. And the general society has put messaging out to everybody in the society. Brother Hamilton talked about music, and he didn't know rather if a man was singing or if a woman was singing on songs. Well, I remember when they started to introduce these homogenous looking men. Remember when Prince,
androgynous,
and Michael Jackson hit the secular community, the church was eventually hit with a tone. You know,
oh yeah,
Black man singing gospel with a boa around his neck, and that whole thing, it just blew up within the church world, because the secular community, the secular world said that we are going to value this femininity in men, and the church went on and sucked it up. And we looked around and said, "Oh well, my God, there's hardly any strong men in the church." So I believe we can get the men back if we change our messaging and offer something to our people that will allow them to navigate through the system.
And this is why they will continue to keep losing members from the Black church. Is some of the stuff he said could contribute to some of them leaving? Yeah, but if that's what you think, is if you just say, you know what, we just get more masculine in the church, you think that's all you need to do, then you truly do not grasp why men, especially Black men, are leaving the Black church. Now, granted, there's a falling away in every race right now from churches in general. But in particular, the reason why in the Black community, you can't wait until you start having this fall away from the church, then decide, okay, what do we need to do? You guys brought out about how, well, all these resources and Monday through Friday, what we can be doing. Are any of you guys trying to mentor in jobs programs? Are any of you guys trying to teach them how to help their credit scores? Are any of you guys teaching them anything that could help them in this society? And what I would argue, if you go back to the Torah and the law, statutes, and commandments, it tells you how you need to deal with one another. It tells you how you need to interact with one another. A lot of people get hung up on the dietary law and this and that, but there is also a code of ethics, how to interact as a community. That is gone. And one of the brothers later on, which we'll talk about next time, he goes into how slavery helped destroy a lot of that. And for those out there, definitely know about the Willie Lynch letters. what that did to the communities. It put, dark skin against light skin, men versus women, old versus young. There was a targeted approach at destroying a mentality of a community. Also, none of these pastors in the Black community have the mentality of what the civil rights pastors, the Martin Luther Kings, the Medgar Evers, the A. Philip Randolphs. They don't have this mentality of community and building that community and strength and fighting for a cause. Only time most of these Black pastors come out is after some viral video of some Black man gets killed on the news. And then they're all, songs and prayers. And remember the Amber Geiger thing? That church literally went down there to pray, to ask to have her released. That's an effeminate spirit right there. That's a submissive beta spirit. I hate to use that, sounding like crazy ass Jesse Lee Peters, but that people need to be held accountable for our actions. Yes, it does say that you should be able to have some mercy here and there, but when a young man is living in his own apartment and he gets gunned down by somebody who walks into the wrong apartment, and because of fear, which I feel is generated from racism, shoots this man down, or I've even heard other stories that it could be more going on than that he did know this woman, and there could have been some kind of relation where she didn't necessarily walk into the wrong apartment. But I mean, I don't know that for a fact, so we're not going to go into all of those scenarios. But all of these things about, okay, yeah, she killed him. She's basically has a very low sentence, and you guys want to pray to get her out of that. That right there, that level of injustice makes men in the Black community look at the Black church in disgust and look at it as weak. As would love to talk credit score issues with you. Yes, I mean there's so much about there's so much that these pastors could be doing to help the communities, which they're not doing. They don't talk about how the economy is different for them when they were at, our ages. I mean, this man is probably easily in his 50s. I'm in my 40s. For Fuzz, a little bit younger, he could be talking about the difference in what was going on with them. They could be setting up programs on how to mentor some of these young Black men into some of their programs. Maybe some of them might have lawyers in that church. You can't get somebody in and start training them as a paralegal. You can't do some of these things to help your community. If you're not going to do these things to help your community, then what is the purpose of the Black church in this day and age? Because you're definitely not teaching doctrine. You're definitely not teaching what the Bible is trying to convey. All you're teaching is smooth words and prosperity doctrine, when we're not getting very prosperous. Yeah, it does sound like I mean, I'm definitely gonna get in touch with Lainey, and I mean, and set that up. I think it will be a lot of fun. It's so many different issues that it's fun to talk to people who have a good knowledge of the scriptures, and and I've been watching Hard Lens now for 4 years, I believe. Yeah, about 4 years I've been watching Hard Lens. So it's pretty cool to actually start, interacting with people who you've been watching for so long and learning a lot from, especially what's been going on with politics. So, yeah, this I figure before I start getting, on my soapbox and going too hard, we will be back actually next Wednesday, Fuzz, because I have a interview next Thursday. So next Wednesday we'll be back. I'm gonna try to push for let's see, what will that be? 10:30, 10:30 Eastern. So what? 7:30 Pacific, and 9:30 Central. Mishiki, I would love to do what is ever needed. Yes, and there's definitely a lot that's needed from someone like you, Laney. I've heard you go into so many things, and you a wealth of knowledge in various subjects. And if somebody really truly wants to help the Black community, or I'll actually go as far as say the Black and Brown community, it's awareness and knowledge in some of these areas that we don't necessarily have. One thing that I learned growing up is a lot of things that I didn't learn until I was in my early to mid 20s or even 30s. Some of this stuff, many of my counterparts in the white neighborhoods were learning these things when they were in their teens. Their parents were teaching them and getting them a head start. And so if our communities start with certain knowledge deficits, it helps further the wage gap issues and all of that stuff. And so that's how you start trying to, get things, streamlined and balanced and start trying to alleviate some of these problems. But if nobody's ever even making the efforts to try to strike at things which could actually be useful and actually be beneficial, then things are always going to stay the way they are. Well, until the Messiah returns. But so I was taught about law, practical law in junior high. Yeah, that's stuff that I did not learn much about. I mean, I learned about a couple of different things, debate and things like that, but sure, hold on a second. But I'm gonna definitely set that up. So you guys look to see Laney on Hebrew apologetics, and look to see her in just a I want to have her on for an interview on what we've been thinking, and just kind of, if you guys have seen my interviews, you guys know I have what I call conversations. So it's going to be, probing into, picking her brain in every different way I can. So, with that said, we're going to wrap this one up for tonight. We are going to do a part 2 of this because there's still a lot of things which they get into. I mean, I guess the first part is a little bit slower. We hit some points and some stuff we couldn't help but jump into, but there's still a lot of things to get into.
That was only 30 minutes?
Yeah,
roughly?
Yeah, roughly about 30. I mean, honestly, once they start getting past like about an hour 15, he starts kind of deviating away from the main topic, and it starts getting into the Black manosphere or whatever that is. And I don't really care about going into that. I mean, if he's not talking about this overlying topic, it starts getting into dating and all kind of, that's a whole other subject. But it's probably about maybe another hour. About another hour to go through. So I live in a prosperous white community. We got that kind of education, which means education was entirely unequal. True. And so anytime I could deal with somebody who grew up in those type of white prosperous communities, and they can recognize, like, hey, I had privilege, I'm not even going to deny it, and are willing to talk about it and try to find ways that can help, others who didn't have those, that privilege, then it's always welcome. But I want to give a shout out to everybody who came through here and everybody who will check this out later. Make sure to catch us next Wednesday. We'll be shooting for 7:30 Pacific. What did I say? 7:30 Pacific, 9:30 Central, and 10:30 Eastern for the second half of this. And pretty sure there's going to be more topics coming up. thank you very much, Misha Shalom. Thank you also, Lainey, and thank you everybody else who came through. And oh yeah, and make sure to check us out. The Political Matrix Saturday. Got a fun show, and Chris will be back. Last week he was at the Lil Wayne concert, so yes, and shalom to you too, Laney. But this has been Hebrew Apologetics with Marcus and Fuzz. I don't know if you noticed that, Fuzz. I changed the name.
I did. I'm grateful for you including me in your show title.
I mean, you're no longer just on the show coming through. You're a part of the show now. I mean, I do lean on you, and I'm going to constantly lean on you more and more. Yeah, I taught you quite a lot, and I got you kick-started, but now you're kind of coming out of the nest now, and you know, starting to strike your own path, and only a matter of time before. Well, I also do want you to take Jalen up under your wing and kind of start teaching him some of what I've taught, or what I've taught you, and eventually we're going to do some of these deeper breakdowns, especially going into Daniel and you know, my favorite, Daniel, Revelations, Jeremiah, Zechariah, Micah. We're going to go into some of these deeper prophecy breakdowns, especially as we get closer to these end days.
Second Esdras also.
Second, oh, we're gonna go into Second Esdras. Oh, we also need to go into Maccabees, and so I'm not sure if you how much read into the Apocrypha you've done, Lainey, but yes, we mostly read a lot from the King James 1611. So with the Apocrypha in, so I feel like that's very pivotal. A lot of, I know some look at it as deuterocanonical. And it does have a lot of history in there, which I feel tied together, you know, the whole entire Bible to make it, you know, very congruent and gives better understanding, you know, a lot more than, and I feel like it answered a lot of those questions I talked about that I wasn't getting in the 66 books. Oh, KJV is my jam. Okay, so yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. So with that said, I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful night. Peace and shalom. Blessings to all of you guys. And then, you know, we always give honor and glory to our Heavenly Father, first and foremost. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good night.